Welcome. Today I'll be making small boxes out of old fence boards. I'll be using a leftover 5.5-inch wide fence board for the bottom and a reclaimed 3.25-inch board for the sides. Fence boards come in different thicknesses, so my measurements won't be your measurements. In fact, the only cutting measurement I took was the bottom board, and that was just to let y'all know that mine was cut to 12 3/4 inches. Cut yours to whatever size you wish. After I cut my bottom board, I painted one side blue, the one to be seen on the inside of the box, and stained the other side dark walnut, just so y'all can see what I'm doing better. If you're going to stain or paint your project, it might be easier to do it before you cut or assemble the box, or you can leave it natural if you'd like to. Lay the board you'll be using for the side against the short side of the bottom and mark a cutting line with a pencil. I'm just using a marker so you can see it better. If you're getting all your cuts out of one board, make your cut just a little bigger so that then you can stack that back on top of that same board and make one exact cut together. I like to use painter's tape to adjoin my same cut boards together once I know the ends of the boards are in alignment. Now butt the short boards up against the end of the bottom board. Line up your board for the long side and use a straight edge to align one end and mark your cutting line on the other end. If you're using two different boards for this next cut, then just make sure the ends of them are aligned together at the bottom and tape them together and just make one cut. So these are the boards you just cut. Now you want to sand down any rough areas on all the edges of the boards. Pick the prettiest side and edges of your wood to be facing out. To assemble, the short sides get attached first. If you have a corner clamp, this is super easy. Just clamp a short side to the bottom piece on the end and nail it together. If you don't have that kind of clamp, I suggest cutting a scrap piece of 2x3 or 2x4 to the same length as the bottom board. Then you stand those boards up parallel to each other and cap with the short side board. The 2x4 acts like a third hand, so to speak, to make nailing easier. Make sure the short side board edges are lined up with the bottom board. I used my brad gun to put 3 1-inch brads in the bottom side to hold those boards together. If you don't have a brad gun, you can always use a hammer and small finishing nails. By the way, I love my brad gun. It's just a cheap Harbor Freight one, and it's worked great for 10 years. It was probably cost around $20 back then, but you also do need an air compressor to use it. But I couldn't do without it. Now turn your project over and use a 2x4 again to help with the other short side and do the exact same thing. When you're nailing, pay special attention that you are centered over the underside board edge so that your nail doesn't poke out at an angle through the box. Now turn it on its side and align the long side up with the bottom. Besides nailing the long side to each short side with 2 brads, I put 3 brads along the bottom of the long board. Then flip it over and do it again with the other side. Don't expect complete perfection in your boxes. Fence boards are notorious for being cupped or slightly warped, and unless you're going to plane them down or do some heavy sanding, they're not going to be perfect, which is actually very quaint. And that's it, you're done. You can make your box any size you want and embellish it if you want or not. Here are some examples. This is a box I used a water-based white stain that I watered down about half and half and applied to the sides before I assembled it. This is a cedar fence board left natural. The bottom is skinny 3.5-inch board and the sides are 5.5 inches wide. This is the box we just made. This next box is also whitewashed with a different stencil painted on each side. I also put a handle on it made from a cabinet hinge. By the way, if you want to put big mason jars in your boxes, you need a minimum of a 3.5-inch wide bottom board. So not all skinny fence boards are that size. For some reason, fence boards vary in their widths and also their thicknesses. The Merry Christmas box is also whitewashed and stenciled and has a skinny bottom and wide sides. These boxes are very quick to whip up and very useful too. Thanks for stopping by my channel. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this content and consider subscribing to my channel for more creativity on a budget.